was a tombstone caretaker for a cemetery in rural Georgia. A summertime job for a 16-year-old. Nothing crazy, just cleaning off the grime and elements on tombstones and etc. Now, just to put a setting, the cemetery included the building that housed bathrooms for the 5 staff members of the cemetery, a small, simple mausoleum, and other than that, flat earth with tombstones everywhere. The only surroundings were dense forests in the Georgia county. That being said, due to the eerie surroundings, I was always a bit paranoid. Plus, I watch a lot of scary movies and so on. I know, bad combo. So, one night I was doing my rounds, and I had to go into a small mausoleum. I had some of the richer families from the area entombed within, and I had to go in, make sure all was neat and clean. Standards had to be upheld for these uppity folks. So I approached, and right off the bat, something was off. The air was pretty damn cold. During the summer in Georgia, that was odd. Other than that, there was a light coming from the mausoleum, and as I approached, I heard voices and laughter. Laughter from a child, a little girl, and I thought it was maybe simply younger folks, maybe. I haven't seen anyone enter or leave the cemetery, and the laughter sounded young. However, as I got closer, the voices and laughter died. The light I also noticed had gone out. I called the lone security officer that does a few rounds on the lot, 'cause I'm not gonna go in alone. And he comes. We will call him Officer Friendly. When Officer Friendly arrives, we both go inside. We see one of the doors to the entombed remains of a young girl open. Nothing was disturbed within, but it was open. And a doll lay on the stone beneath it. Me and Officer Friendly do a small sweep. It was only 1 floor in 1 room, so it didn't take long. We close the door to the girl's entombment, and we both leave. As we walk away, we get about 30 feet from the mausoleum, and then all of a sudden, boom, voices and laughter again. I jump, and Officer Friendly looks at me, looking pretty shaken, says, "You hear it too?" We look back, and boom, lights back, laughter continuing. We don't go back, we just book it. I found out the next morning the door was open again, and this time the doll was on the other side of the mausoleum from where we found it the night before. I resigned the next day. I'm good. Not really a cemetery experience, but it was still pretty freaky. My grandparents live out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much, and is surrounded by woods. On their property, there was a whole family that owned my grandparents' property before them. From what I was told, they were killed or something like that. A few years ago, when I was still living with my grandparents, a relative that was related to the dead family came up to the property and wanted to remove the bodies from the land. My grandpa was extremely happy about it because he wanted to expand the house, but couldn't because he didn't want to mess with the graves. So they got together, and I stood nearby, watching them dig up 4 caskets. There were 3 adult-sized caskets and 1 child-sized casket, and they all looked really old. One of the bigger caskets had holes and cracks all over it. That was the one that my grandpa and the other relative were carrying when the body fell out of the bottom of the casket. The body was pretty much bones, but it still had old muscle and tissue on it. I remember feeling sick to my stomach as I watched them uncomfortably put the body back into the casket upside down. My grandpa and the relative of the dead family put them into the back of the guy's truck, drove them up to Kansas because that's where the rest of the family is buried. We thought it was weird, but we weren't really going to question him about it. When I was in college, I worked part-time at a Jewish cemetery in the reception office management. The cemetery was closed from Friday afternoon through Saturday evening for Sabbath. We sometimes stayed a bit later in the office on Friday afternoons to get bills out or checks processed. We heard a loud commotion by the cemetery entrance, which was locked, and only staff could get in and out. The office manager went to see what was going on and made me come with her. We went down to the gate to find an older woman, probably around 70, dressed to the nines, begging us to let her in. She kept saying she needed to get back. This was the suburbs of New Jersey, so you needed a car to get around, but we didn't see a car or anything. She was just there in this beautiful dress. We couldn't open the gate without the cemetery manager, so we went to go get him. We brought him back to the gate, and no one was there. We looked at the video footage of the entrance, and you could see us, the office manager and me, talking, but there was no one on the other side of the gate. The cemetery manager thought we were trying to trick him. I swear to this day that we saw a woman in a fancy dress outside that gate. There were multiple cameras and not a single one picked up anyone on the other side of the gate, and you could see the whole gate. All you could see was us. I don't know if it was a ghost or what. The office manager and I decided not to tell anyone else, but we would mention it to each other every once in a while.